It all starts in a super creepy, swampy forest in the dead of night, and right in the middle of that murky water and old logs, a weird light starts to shine. And that little light just keeps getting stronger and stronger. Suddenly, a tiny, slimy creature pops out of the log. Say hello to our protagonist. He remembers that just last night, he was chilling and reading a comic on his phone, and he starts freaking out when he realizes he suddenly kicked the bucket and ended up in another world. But he calms down, thinking the best move right now is to check his surroundings to survive. So, he starts calling out to see if anyone else is around, but the only things that show up are a bunch of scary monsters, so he decides to keep his mouth shut. Looking around, he realizes the place is crawling with bugs and moisture everywhere. Even though the place is gross, he feels strangely comfortable in that environment. Then he snaps back to reality and questions what exactly he reincarnated as. Suddenly, a system screen pops up right in front of his face. The screen says he is a slime mold level 1 and needs to eat or hibernate immediately. RMC starts panicking when he sees his HP dropping and realizes if he doesn't do something, it's game over all over again. He needs to eat to survive, but has no clue what's around to satisfy his hunger. The status screen shows one of his traits as being a decomposer. With that, he remembers that slime molds eat wood, so he decides to give it a shot. Then he notices his body spreads out on its own, and the taste is kind of like a soggy cracker. 15 minutes pass while our protagonist is still devouring the wooden log. After eating, he levels up and his HP is full again. The system notifies him that he earned a skill point to use, and he can upgrade one of his abilities. One is Decompose, which is at level 6, and the other is Pulse, which is at level 2. He has no idea what Pulse is, but decides to dump the point there to see what happens. Instantly, the ability activates, and his body starts pulsating. He realizes the skill allows him to move, and a bit of knowledge pops into his head out of nowhere. Since he won't be gaining any more XP from wood for a while, he decides to explore the area. Our MC is amazed by the ability to change his shape at will. While exploring the ground, he spots a really weird-looking mushroom. His slime instincts tell him that mushroom is absolutely delicious. He stretches out slowly to take the shortest road to his snack. Fun fact, slime molds are experts at finding the fastest path, and with that in mind, our protagonist carefully approaches the giant mushroom. Using his movement skill, he climbs the mushroom's body without breaking a sweat. Then, upon reaching the top, he gets ready to finally fill his belly. Suddenly, he hallucinates a romantic date. The pink-haired girl asks if he is the famous tough guy Pew Pew. Looking like a slime but acting all stylish, he confirms he's the guy she's been looking for, but the girl turns around and reveals a bizarre appearance covered in eyes. Our MC screams that he's been scammed, and the system alerts him about the poison the mushroom possesses. With his HP dropping fast, he realizes the mushroom was toxic. In a do or die decision, he rips off the part of his body that touched the poison. The system notifies that the toxin has been eliminated, but his max HP took a nosedive. The mushroom got damaged, and the protagonist says he'll let it slide just for now. He retreats, swearing he'll come back to fight when he's stronger. Finally, he goes back to the log where he was before to recover. After 15 minutes, he's still recovering on top of his wooden log. The system notifies that his HP is full, and he burps with satisfaction from a full belly. With full health again, he shouts that he's back and ready for round 2. Then he uses his new movement ability to return to his previous objective. His plan is to eat a little and retreat to heal, repeating the cycle until he finishes off the mushroom. Our protagonist calls this grand strategy Operation Move the Mountain. He is sure that with plenty of time, he'll manage to take down that mushroom. In his mind, the creature asks if he isn't going to give up since it's already the 8th time. But in the hallucination this time, a pair of handcuffs appears in the mushroom lady's hands. Our MC, now dressed as a cop, arrests the creature and reads at its rights. Back to reality, he finally manages to devour the giant mushroom. With that, he gains experience and acquires the poison resistance skill level 1. Now he understands why he was lasting longer in his last few attempts. He gets a bit sad he didn't level up with the giant mushroom, but that doesn't matter because in a damp place, the one thing not missing is mushrooms. Eating a safe mushroom, he goes up to level 3 and gains half a skill point. Then he devours a toxic mushroom that gives a lot of XP and jumps to level 4. Next, he decides to eat several mushrooms at once to turn them into nutrients. With that, the system warns he reached level 5, but won't gain any more XP for 24 hours. Satisfied, he decides to take the rest of the mushrooms home since he hit his limit. Our protagonist sings happily with the mushrooms on his back serving as food and protection. He thinks he's a genius for using mushrooms for defense, just like hermit crabs with anemones. He continues his path through the forest with his mushroom backpack. Suddenly, a swarm of giant wasps appears flying with chunks of meat. He hides in the bushes, hoping the poisonous mushrooms will scare off the wasps. While they fly over, we see a frog's tongue snatching one of them. The frog pulls the wasp in and devours it completely. Our MC is shocked to see a giant frog appear in the area. Immediately, the frog and the wasp start fighting right there. Hiding, he realizes the two monsters monsters are battling each other, the frog gets surrounded by the wasps, but he doesn't seem intimidated at all. Then one of the wasps charges in with its stinger aiming right at the beast's head. With a precise bite, the wasp rips a chunk off the frog, who feels the damage. Our protagonist watches from afar and notes that the swarm's strength makes up for their individual weakness. He thinks if both get hurt fighting each other, he can scavenge the leftovers and gain a ton of XP. The wasps continue attacking in a pack, and the frog starts losing ground, but soon he prepares a counterattack against the wasps. Using his strengthened tongue, he attacks all the wasps at once. With his sticky tongue, the little frog pulls the wasps into his mouth. Watching from a distance, our mushroom-covered slime is surprised by the frog's strength. After the fight, the frog rests on a branch. Out of nowhere, a giant snake emerges from the waters and prepares to devour the frog. In the blink of an eye, the snake strikes, and the frog becomes a snack without a chance to react. But the snake also becomes food for a giant bird that appears out of thin air. The huge bird stares at our protagonist, and it looks like he's the next course. With all this chaos going on, our MC wets himself with fear and gives up on fighting. The reflection in the beast's eye shows the despair of our little yellow creature, but the giant bird doesn't seem to care about him and simply ignores him completely. The bird ignores our slime buddy and leaps with its powerful legs. Just the wind from the bird makes our protagonist lose 30 HP. Luckily, that scary bird left and didn't attack our slime. The night passes slowly over that spooky swamp. Our slime goes back to the log to hide from the nocturnal dangers. Inside the hideout, he reflects on the food chain and realizes he's part of the bottom. Fortunately, because he's so weak, the big monsters don't even bother hunting him. His status screen shows he is level 5 and has 13 skill points left. He gets sad because even leveling up 4 times, he is still a weak creature. Then he wonders how a slime mold can survive and get stronger in this world. Tired of everything, he just wishes it was all a dream and he would wake up in his bed. Then over the forest, the day dawns. While he sleeps, a snail appears and drools green slime on one of the mushrooms. That drool ends up dripping on our protagonist, who starts taking damage nonstop. He wakes up screaming in pain, and with the fright, he jumps super high, gaining the impulse skill. Falling after the powerful jump, he goes splat on the ground. After pulling himself together, he sees the snail that gave him a huge scare. The creature spits an acidic liquid that corrodes the mushroom our slime was holding. The green acid starts to dissolve the mushroom. Our MC gets angry seeing the snail using acid and consuming his mushroom. The creature turns around and stares at him with a face like it doesn't understand anything. He complains that the snail had already stolen his mushrooms right in front of him, and that the acid drool almost disfigured him, making this unforgivable. The snail then starts making a very quiet and sad crying sound. Our protagonist doesn't buy it and tells the creature to stop playing the victim. The little snail keeps trembling with a face like it's going to cry any moment. Seeing the little snail's drama, he starts to think maybe he's being a bit too cruel. Feeling pity, he says he won't make it hard and that the snail can eat the mushrooms if it wants. The creature accepts, and the protagonist thinks this is like a shonen anime friendship. In his mind, he already imagines the two forming a duo to increase survival chances. He also dreams of the two leveling up together as best partners. He even hallucinates too much, dreaming of being a knight on an adventure to defeat the great demon king along with the little snail. So he concludes that to survive in this world, companions are essential. He invites the snail to form a team and promises there will be mushrooms for everyone. The little snail seems to think about the proposal and lets out a cute noise, but out of nowhere, it attacks our protagonist with a bite without any mercy. With that, he loses 12 HP and understands that in nature, friendship doesn't exist. He realizes he was tricked and that the snail is stronger, so he decides to run. The evil little snail is left behind with its cute face and the rest of our protagonist in its mouth. To his despair, the snail starts chasing him and doesn't look like it's going to give up. With no choice, he uses his points to level up his pulse skill to flee faster. Now with maximum speed, he runs for his life and he dashes off using his new speed. But the snail pursues him closely. 3 minutes pass, and the chase continues, looking like a scene from Fast and Furious with their speed. Our MC gets annoyed because the creature's speed is just as fast as his. Seeing it won't catch him, the little snail stops and starts puffing up its throat. With that, it spits a huge amount of acidic liquid in our slime's direction. The acid hits him square on, taking 27 HP and splitting him in half. With his body divided, he wonders which half his consciousness will stay in, but he soon realizes now is not the time to ponder that kind of stuff. The snail then reveals a bizarre mouth full of teeth and screams in a scary way. Next, it charges and bites the smaller piece that was separated by the acid. Our protagonist swears revenge while watching the creature devouring a part of himself. The snail doesn't even care about the threat and continues eating the yellow goo calmly. Suddenly, the creature turns dark and grows horns, leaving our protagonist terrified. In a desperate move, our slime grabs one of the mushrooms lying around. The snail, now looking like a monster, shows its true nature with a mouth holding hundreds of scary teeth. After grabbing the mushroom, he throws it into the snail's mouth to try and save himself. The poisonous mushroom starts taking effect on the snail immediately, making it writhe in pain and drool uncontrollably. After a short time, with the poison's effect, the snail falls to the ground defeated, helping our slime climb to level 6. He realizes his plan worked because the creature had no poison resistance. Celebrating his victory, he is happy to have defeated his first monster. Then he wonders what kind of surprise he'll get from decomposing the creature, but touching the snail's body, he feels disgusted by that slime. Despite that, he convinces himself to eat, thinking it's a fancy dish, so he doesn't get grossed out. But the taste is awful, making even him want to throw up. The texture was nasty, and the flavor was sour and salty at the same time. To make matters worse, the system warns that the decomposition failed, and he didn't gain XP. He thinks about throwing the body away, but remembers he risked his life to win that fight. To get stronger, he understands he can't be picky with food, so he thinks about dissolving the little snail all at once, while imagining he's plugging his own nose. Our slime, even while gagging, is trying his best to dissolve the little creature. It takes a few minutes to dissolve the snail, and when he finishes dissolving, the system notifies he went up to level 7 and his body fully recovered. Even fully recovered, our slime doesn't feel well, like he's nauseous. The status system appears showing his abilities. He analyzes his skills and realizes he's only good for eating, running, and taking a beating. Our MC gets irritated because he has no attack skills, but complaining won't help because he is just a slime mold, and that is his reality. Besides, he consoles himself admitting he wouldn't beat monsters even with attack skills, so he decides to use his points to level up his pulse skill to run away faster. Pulse goes up to level 4, and he gets curious to test his speed, so he uses his speed, making him travel about 8 inches super fast. He is satisfied for now with 8 inches, but calculating it, he sees that's less than a mile per hour, making him frustrated with his reality. A week passes, and our protagonist continues his quiet life on the log. Staying put is safe, but he needs a new home to keep evolving, so before leaving, he decides to eat a bit more to fill his belly. With that, he uses his new exploration skill and spreads his body over the area. This way he manages to create a map of the region to search for food and dangers. The system soon notifies it found 3 mushrooms, and he is already absorbing all of them. Right after, the system notifies it found 6 more mushrooms for him. With this, he learns to eat while exploring, which increases his efficiency. Furthermore, upon devouring another mushroom, his poison resistance goes up to level 4. During his search, he encounters another snail, but can't decompose it. The creature strikes back with a headbutt and takes 9 HP from our protagonist. He gets annoyed realizing it's the same type of creature that attacked him before. Immediately, the snail spits a stream of acidic liquid in his direction. The acid hits him, taking 7 health, but he is happy his speed increased. He also notes this snail seems much faster than the previous one. Despite that, our protagonist brags, saying the creature won't hit him again, but he gets hit again and loses a massive 32 health points. The snail turns its back to leave, thinking the fight was already over. However, our hero takes the chance and shoves a mushroom into the enemy's mouth. He reveals he let himself get hit on purpose to make the creature lower its guard. With the poison taking effect, the snail starts writhing in pain. The system notifies he went up to level 10 after decomposing the creature. Even with the terrible taste, he admits the monster experience is very good. With a full belly again, our protagonist decides to continue his journey. Suddenly, he feels a strange presence in the forest. He taunts the creature while hidden, saying he already noticed it, but what appears isn't a snail, but a giant bizarre centipede. The monster is so big its shadow covers our protagonist completely. Its legs look like sharp blades and move in a very menacing way. Our protagonist shakes with fear at the appearance of that huge beast. The giant centipede charges in our slime's direction. In a panic, he throws his poisonous mushrooms at the creature to protect himself, but the beast cuts the mushrooms in mid-air with its legs like it was nothing. He realizes his main poison strategy didn't work this time. With that, the centipede attacks, wrapping around him like a snake, and delivers a bite. The beast's head sinks into our hero's body, who seems to have a plan in mind. He realizes his body is immune to blade attacks, and the centipede can't hurt him. With this unexpected advantage, he says he won't turn down this free XP and consumes the giant centipede alive. After leveling up, he finds a beetle but decides to look for something better. Next, he spots a wasp but thinks it's not worth the effort. Even a cockroach he decides to pass on since it doesn't look like good grub. Satisfied with his progress, he takes some time to relax and eat a little strawberry. His status screen shows he is already at level 13 and with full HP. He is happy with his level doubling speed and feels confident. His position in the food chain is starting to climb higher and higher. Now he is already above insects and dreams of eating a frog someday. In his mind, he already sees himself as the king of the world on top of a mountain of monsters. Continuing his exploration, he arrives at the edge of another swamp in the forest. He wonders if the water hides some treasure or resource for him to grab. Without thinking twice, our protagonist decides to test it and approaches the water. But upon touching the water, his body swells up and he feels like he's going to explode any moment. A biology lesson shows his body absorbs too much water in a less salty environment. He understands that being a single cell, he swells in water like a red blood cell. With that, his plan to explore the swamp will have to be postponed for now. But out of nowhere, a giant, weird crab emerges from the water right in front of him. Our protagonist gets startled and breaks into a cold sweat at the size of that beast. The creature then stands still in the water, releasing a bunch of bubbles from its mouth. He already starts dreaming of a crab banquet with juicy, delicious meat, so he tries to lure the beast to dry land to make friends with it, but the crab ignores him completely and climbs onto a rock to rest a bit. The creature continues releasing its gross green bubbles without stopping for a second. Our MC gets irritated because the beast didn't fall for his trap at all. The monster just chills there without even caring about our hero's presence. He gives up waiting and threatens to poison the water with one of his toxic mushrooms. In response, the crab shoots a powerful jet of water bubbles in his direction. The attack hits our slime square on, the water jet tears through his body and explodes on the ground with a huge noise. With that, he loses 25 HP and a hole opens in the middle of his body. Seeing he's in a pickle, he starts to flee while the crab fires several bursts of water at our slime. Desperate, our protagonist runs and hides behind a tree to protect himself. He understands the crab is much stronger than the insects he faced before, so he decides to wait because now the fight has turned into a patience game for both. Then the crab makes the first move, jumping back into the water. Our slime peeks from behind the tree and wonders if the beast finally gave up the hunt. But just his luck, the crab comes out of the water and climbs onto dry land. The creature quickly starts to move. With that, the beast starts running in his direction with surprising speed, moving sideways. Our protagonist is shocked to realize the crab really wants to eat him. With nowhere to go, he climbs the tree as fast as he can as his only alternative. He regrets becoming the prey but plans to use the tree to protect himself from attacks. But reaching the top, he comes face to face with a giant spider. He tries to ignore the spider and asks it to get out of the way because he has no time to waste. Since the spider doesn't move, our protagonist gets annoyed and says he's eaten plenty of bugs like her. But the creature isn't intimidated and stares at him with its red eyes from up close. Suddenly, the spider attacks with a quick strike, knocking a slime hat off our protagonist. With that, he loses 30 HP and wonders why his immunity to blades didn't work. The spider rips a piece off him and devours it, revealing it as level 16 with a sword skill. To make matters worse, the crab down below shoots another burst of water at him. The attack takes 17 health, leaving him trapped between two monsters with nowhere to go. He despairs realizing he's out of luck and cornered in a dead end again. But then, with his slime brain, he has a genius idea. He waits for the right moment. When the crab shoots a burst of water at him, using his flexible body, he dodges, minimizing the damage and putting the spider in front of the water jet. With the powerful blast, one of the spider's legs is ripped off. The wounded creature stands there not understanding what happened. Pissed off, the spider jumps and attacks the crab down below in a rage. The web hits the crab's shell perfectly, pulling herself close. The spider unleashes an attack with her sharp legs. The crab uses its hard shell as a shield and blocks the spider's attack. With its claw, it tries to crush the spider, who gets stuck in her own web. The creature then uses her web to bind the crab's claw. From afar, our slime celebrates that they left him alone. The crab gets furious trying to rip the web off. Seeing an opening, the spider launches an attack against the crab's unprotected eye. But at the last moment, the crab blocks the spider's cutting attack. The spider gets angry, feeling pain in her front leg. The powerful crab takes advantage and unleashes an attack with its left claw on the spider, but with her above average speed, she jumps to dodge the claw. The crab's claw stays closed due to this rush, leaving it at a slight disadvantage. Then, combining her speed and web, the spider starts wrapping up the crab, who stands firm. Even standing firm, the spider manages to wrap the crab completely, leaving it totally trapped. Our protagonist is surprised by the spider's comeback against the crab. The spider gets confused seeing the beast blowing bubbles, even while tied up. The bubbles in the crab's mouth start glowing with a bright light. Suddenly, the crab fires a spinning water jet with all its strength. The crab's uncontrolled attack is terrifying. With no way to dodge the random attack, the spider ends up caught off guard and gets her body sliced into 3 pieces. The powerful water blast continues to sweep the area nonstop. Our protagonist is almost hit by one of the jets. After the attack, the crab is exhausted. Its water jet, which was powerful and strong, is now limp and weak. At the end of the brawl, the spider parts are scattered on the ground. He peeks from afar and wonders if the beast's attack is finally over. Seeing the dust settle, he approaches the monsters carefully. He gets close to the crab and mocks it, saying it's finished. Then he thinks about how to finish off the beast before it recovers. He looks at a rock and seems to have an idea to end the fight. His plan is to use a rock to crush the beast and absorb it first, but his inventory is full of mushrooms, and there is no space for the rock. He remembers space depends on his HP, which is low because of the fight, so he spits out all the mushrooms to manage to store the rock. With free inventory, the system notifies the rock was stored successfully. Our protagonist struggles to absorb the heavy rock into his body. He complains that even inside him, the rock is still very heavy to carry. Looking down, he warns the crab that its time has finally come. With the rock inside him, he climbs the tree again to attack from above. The crab tries to fight back with one last very weak water jet, but our hero blocks the attack with the rock and mocks the beast. The monster is terrified seeing its last effort didn't do anything. Then our protagonist with the huge rock drops onto the crab. The system notifies he won and went up to level 14, gaining points. He declares himself the great winner of the battle and starts laughing with happiness. Thrilled on top of the beast, he gets ready for the feast. He uses the monster's carcass as a plate and cutlery for a fancy dinner. Without wasting time, he gets ready to devour the crab roe. With that, our protagonist eats a piece of the beast's leg with gusto. For the first time, he tastes delicious food in this new world. With tears in his eyes, he decides he'll work hard to eat more crab, not to waste anything. He also devours the spider leftovers. After eating everything, he lets out a satisfied burp. With a full belly, he feels strong and says it's time to do that thing. So he moves a bit away from the battle site to be alone. Suddenly, our protagonist starts straining ridiculously hard. His eyes bug out, and he looks like he has a stomach ache. With that, our hero lets out a very loud and desperate scream of pain. He strains while screaming to let it out. Turns out he is trying to imitate the crab's bubble attack. He believes he can learn the skill by himself without the system's help. He pushes really hard to try and release the water jet, but in the end, he just accidentally lets out a tiny little fart of slime. He complains it came out the wrong end and tries again harder, but the result is weak, and he can't control the attack's direction. Suddenly, our protagonist has a brilliant idea to solve the problem. He activates his impulse skill to force the jet out the front. With that, the skill evolves into a cytoplasm shot that hits the shell. The new ability allows him to shoot parts of his body, like a projectile. He is happy because he managed to evolve one of his skills successfully. Then he realizes the skill doesn't have the 5-minute cooldown time. Excited, he starts shooting pieces of himself to test the new power. With that, he hits the shell several times without needing a reload time. After using the skill so much, it goes up to level 2, getting stronger, but the price to use the power is his own life, which starts to decrease. He understands his skills come from his body and not magic, so to get strong, he needs to eat more. Then he has an idea and wonders what happens if he eats a piece of his own body. With that in mind, he finds the piece the spider had ripped off him earlier in the fight. Our protagonist is surprised by the size of the piece and decides to try absorbing it back, so he activates a recovery skill to rejoin the part to his main body. The separated slime starts moving and merging with him again in a very weird way. Upon absorbing, he receives the XP and life the part accumulated, and some strange memories come along. Now he understands his separated parts can eat on their own, and he collects everything back later. Our protagonist realizes he just discovered a glitch in the system. He plans to split into several pieces and send them to work as if they were multiple mouths. To test, he uses his new division skill, but that ends up costing 10 of his life. He notes that if a piece's life drops below 30, it starts consuming itself, but with plenty of food, he can create as many clones as he wants without worrying about their life. Excited by the idea, our protagonist starts contorting to split into several parts. With a pop, he splits and loses 30 health, but creates several clones to level up faster. After organizing his clones, he eats the rest of the spider to recover. Our protagonist feels much stronger after mastering his slime body. He realizes he is immune to normal piercing attacks and feels safe. Even if it's a sword, the damage is still low because of his slime, but an advanced cutting attack, like the spiders, can still hurt him. However, he manages to regenerate fast and is almost immune to damage. With that, he understands physical attacks aren't a threat to him now. The only problem left is magic attacks, which he has never seen. He wonders if this world is just animals, or if he hasn't explored properly. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise and sees something moving in the swamp. One of his clones approaches to look and gets caught by a crab. Several crabs appear and start devouring our hero's pieces. They come out of the water and take the slime to dry land to eat in peace. The creatures keep eating the clones without stopping for a single second. Several crabs of different sizes devour the clones. Hidden in the tree, he watches the crabs falling for his bait. He uses his clones as decoys. With the crabs in his sights, he makes the huge tree he was in tip over. Then a huge boom happens with the impact of the tree on the ground. With that, he defeats 6 crabs at once and goes up to level 15. Next, he eats the leftovers of the beasts to fully recover his life. With a full belly, our protagonist decides to train his shooting skill. In his mind, he imagines himself as a stylish gunslinger, so he starts firing his slime projectiles at the crabs' carcasses. After many shots, his shooting skill goes up to level 6. After 2 days of training, he gets exhausted but greatly improves his aim and power. Now he can fire 30 shots before running out of life. Suddenly, he has the idea to add some ingredients to his projectiles. With that, he can shoot a poisonous mushroom to poison enemies from afar. Likewise, he can also shoot a stone to increase the physical damage of the attack. With the diversity of attacks, he becomes more powerful. Our protagonist thinks he's a true genius. Suddenly, he hears a strange sound coming from a hole in the tree and sees a little light. The mysterious light catches his attention, so he climbs the tree to investigate. At the entrance of the tree hole, he is quite curious about what it could be, but out of nowhere, a giant, ghostly owl is inside the hole. Our protagonist panics, realizes he finally found a monster that uses magic, and jumps from the tree to save himself from the owl. Without thinking twice, he understands he stands no chance and decides to beat a retreat from there. The ghost owl makes no movement while just staying there farming aura. Somewhere else nearby, we see a pink-haired girl apparently using magic on her eye. With her adventurer group, she reports only seeing a small, harmless creature nearby. The group complains the forest is empty and magical. Communication has been cut off for some reason. Our slime is totally terrified after the owl spotted him, runs to the river thinking he'll be safe on the other side, but doesn't know how he'll cross. Then he has the brilliant idea of using a law of physics to propel himself. With that, our protagonist uses his slime shot to launch himself to the other side. He manages to cross but loses 80 health from the impact of the fall. Even injured, he continues using the skill to flee as fast as he can. Tired, he stops behind a tree and wonders if he is finally safe. To recover, he eats wood but thinks he was almost defeated easily. Suddenly, a pair of red eyes appears in the darkness and leaves him terrified. He thinks the owl followed him and feels a pressure much stronger than before. However, he realizes the presence isn't the owl and sees something approaching. Out of nowhere, a giant flaming paw crushes the ground right in front of him. Our protagonist is speechless seeing the size of that bizarre creature. Suddenly, he notices something falling and wonders if that is a finger. A golden finger then floats in front of him, leaving our hero's jaw on the floor. His intuition says if he eats the finger, he can evolve and get much stronger. So he grabs onto the monster's finger to try reaching the golden finger. With that, he uses his dissolve ability to try dissolving that huge thing. He tries his hardest to decompose the beast's skin, but it seems very resistant. Even trying his best, it's like he's just tickling it. The monster's skin seems to have a natural defense against his dissolve ability. Suddenly, the system notifies the skill failed because the beast is too strong and invincible. With that, he starts losing life non-stop and feels his body being devoured little by little. In a quick decision, our hero decides to cut the part of the body that got stuck on the monster. Thus, he throws himself away from the creature and manages to escape death by a hair. Already on the ground, he complains his dissolve skill is weak while his life recovers. He understands the only way to get the fingers is by leveling up his skill to come back there later. Suddenly, the ground shakes violently, and he wonders if that is an earthquake. Under that huge finger, the ground starts to deform, and a massive hole opens up, consuming the finger inside. Our protagonist is shocked by what just happened. Seeing he is in the hole's area, he uses his ability to flee. Stuck on the tree, he realizes he was almost caught in the shockwave. The huge hole begins to close, while our slime is recovering from almost being consumed. Scared, he realizes the world out there is much more dangerous than he thought. He understands the only way out is to hide and eat to get stronger. That finger consumed by the earth is shown to us, but soon the danger lurking in that land is revealed with huge sharp teeth. Then the monster that had shown that aura earlier to our slime reveals its intimidating form.